Salon owners are some of the most amazing people on planet Earth. The only problem is sometimes their hearts are so big and they give so much of themselves to their staff and guests that it creates unintended consequences. Our goal is to change the industry by elevating the way the rest of the world sees salons, spas, and barbershops and give it the credibility that it truly deserves. This is the Salon Owner Revo Show. Buddy, first of all, hope you're doing incredibly well and you're having a fan-freaking-tastic day. Whether you're watching the show or you're watching, you're listening, or hanging out, we're just excited that you're here hanging out with us today. Today on the show, we are talking about how do you become excessively, I think that's a good way to talk about it, excessively abundant with your optimism. And that's what we talk about today. Guest on the show today is guess who? Guess who's going to be hanging out with me? Oh yeah, Doug Campbell. What's up, Doug? How are you, man?
How's it going?
So we're going to talk about this excessive abundance of optimism today because I think right now more than ever, there's kind of two directions you can go down. Is one, you can go down the path of like imagining this horrible, future that is just, terrible to look out and examine. And then you can go down this path of like, what are all the great things? And Doug, right before we hit play on the show and wanted to rock and roll, you said, this could be a really amazing time for your business. And would you mind just saying what that was again? And if you guys can hear us and see us, do me a favor, comment, hear and see in the chat. Just want to make sure that's working for you guys. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's just looking for opportunities. It's an opportunity to reset. You're able to do things and look at things that normally you wouldn't be able to because your business is running at full speed. Not right now, it's not. So, and not to squander the opportunity but to see what can we do. And it's like one of the things we found a way that when we start back up, we'll be able to bring in a net profit of $40,000.
Yeah.
Just by looking at things differently, having a disrupt and looking at things differently.
Yeah, and I think one of those things that we're talking about here, Doug, with all this stuff that you and I are just chatting about, is that for so many people, I think that one of the things that they're doing is they're focusing on what they can't do, what they don't have control over. They're worried like, when am I going to get my bailout or my PPP loan or my EIDL loan, or like what are the things that like they don't have control over? It might be taking longer than they expect, right? They're trying to figure out how do all those things play out. And again, I think it's just how do you shift your focus from, are you focusing on the things that you have control over? Or are you focusing on things you can't have control over? And that's what we're going to be talking about today and giving you guys some good framework of how do you get your mind right? How do you get your money right? How do you get your business right? No matter what type of salon you have, is how do you set yourself up for success in order to make sure on the other side we can get you to a win? Because I still believe this is point, and maybe play back this in a couple months of saying like, okay, maybe something's different. But I think right now, Doug, still that this is going to be the greatest year that a lot of people have inside their salon if they're rolling up their sleeves and doing it the right way right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's being aware of it and taking it. It's like we've talked about it many times. Is you can't control what happens to you, but you can control your response to it.
Mm-hmm.
And just because there's some things going on that have happened, and some of this has never happened before. Hopefully, it'll never happen again.
Yeah.
But so say that this is where we are. How can I use this as an opportunity to figure some things out? Because it is an opportunity. It's very few times I walk in my salon or salons and not have a million things going on. So there's things I can pay attention to, things I can get done, opportunities to learn more about my POS systems, all those things. I could be absorbed with the news of the day all day and go down that road, or I could look at what's this opportunity that's been given to me, and am I going to use it to help things move forward? And some people are like, oh, well, how can you be positive when all this is going on? It's like, well, and I think it's your responsibility to be. I think it's your responsibility because we need to come out of this strong. We need to come out of this strong for our clients, for the people that work for us, for our employees, and for our community.
Yeah.
If we hit the gates hard and we run out and we're just blowing and going whenever this thing is over, that's the quicker recovery and the more people are able to get back. But if people aren't set up for it and it opens up, they're just going to be in more disarray than they are right now.
That's
So
right. Yeah, and I think that's such a really good point, Doug. Is like, what are you doing right now? We've talked about this a lot. This is not a time to be on vacation. This is a time to double down, be overly optimistic for your staff. And I think there's a lot of people going, well, you got to be realistic. There's a lot of things that are happening, and you just can tell when you talk to people right now. They're either high tone and they're excited and they're enthusiastic and they're looking forward to the opportunities, or they are down in the dumps and like waiting to kind of crawl inside. And I just I would just say for all of you guys, and I want you guys to type in the chat if you're willing to be honest. Are you optimistic, or are you being a little pessimistic? And by the way, I said this on an interview I was doing earlier today with the L'Oreal group and some of what they were doing. Is as I was talking about this stuff is like, you get to choose how you want to feel. And I think even though there's some things that are going on, like, why not choose to be optimistic about what's happening? Why not choose to see the good side of everything that's going on? Because even though there's things that are bad, there's things that are great. We were just doing a salon recovery program. We're on our second week of a 4-week salon recovery program. By the way, if you want information on that, comment with the word recovery right here, and we'll talk about how does this get even better for you, because there's 3 things you need to do. You need to be able to stabilize, organize, and then capitalize. And this week we were talking about organizing, like getting clear on what are all the things that are happening inside the space for you, and making sure that everything you can possibly do is operating at the level that you want it to, right? That's a super, super important thing for you. Now, as far as the rest of being optimistic goes, is that there's a couple things you can do to make sure you maintain a level of high optimism. Okay, so what are some of those things you can do to maintain high optimism? Well, number one, it's surround yourself with people that are extremely optimistic and that are in your environment. Is if you're around people, and I've said this over and over again, is that you might be around people that are depressed all the time or down on themselves or whatever. Find communities to plug yourself into. Find places to go that you can actually have that community of people who are also optimistic around you. So community is a really important thing. The other thing that you want to do is you want to be reading good materials right now. Okay, so let me ask you guys, as you're watching this right now, what are you doing to keep yourself optimistic? Where are you finding support? For some people, it's reading business books. For other people, it's reading content about, like for some people, it's reading religious texts. Like, it could be anything you can find some hope, some optimism. And again, for a lot of the salon owners that we're working with, we're encouraging them. And again, I threw out religious texts. It could be any type of religion, by the way. It doesn't really matter. Or just some motivational quotes. That's totally fine as well. There's actually, you can go onto YouTube and you can actually pull up content, just say, hey, I want to listen to some motivation so that my day gets framed and gets created in kind of this backdrop, if you will, of making sure that you've got the right type of information flowing into your mind. Because here's what I know is, if you have a glass, and I've got my cool glass. This is a glass that makes me extremely happy, by the way. I'm at my house, so I have this cool glass. I'll share it with you guys. This is from a place called Germain's Luau in Hawaii. If you can't see the glass because you're listening to me on the radio, it's just this like tiki mask looking glass. And the reason why I love drinking from this glass and using it on a daily basis at my house, because it makes me freaking happy. It reminds me of all the things that I've done in Hawaii, and it's one of those things that, like, it makes me happy no matter what's going on, and like it just brings me to a level of optimism that I just have not had before. So as you're paying attention, I want to know in the chat, would you guys do me a favor? What are you doing to stay optimistic? I have a group that I'm a part of that we do on a regular basis, not only inside of our academy, we do some cool stuff there, but I have another business building group. And I'll tell you, there's a guy in that group. His name is Mike Aguilera. And I love what he said. He said this the other day. He said, Jason, there's some people who think people have less money than ever before. I'm choosing to believe the other side, which is that people have more money than ever before. And now for a lot of people, you might think, well, that's not true. I don't do it. Like, that's not how this works. This is not what's going on. And I just would make this argument to you is that, look, there are people on this earth that actually have more money right now than they've ever had before, because they're no longer traveling. They're no longer buying shoes and, other, knickknacks and trinkets and things like that that are a part of their day. And so they're not eating out. They're not buying all this extra stuff. They're not traveling anymore. Like, for crying out loud, I haven't put a tank of gas in my car in 3 weeks. Like, there are so many people that actually, in some cases, have more money now than they have ever had before. And as you choose to look at that, I really want to find out from you guys, what are the things that you're doing to keep that positive mindset? Like I see down in the comments, Naomi says that she listens to positive meditation before she goes to sleep. That's awesome. Sandra says, going back to the religious pieces, she said, I start with scripture each and every single day. That's a big one, right? Lana says positive education from my salon industry, social media, and Zoom. James Cooper. Thanks, James. James says, I listen to Jason. That's a big deal. Yeah, he also said on here, I'll put this one up too, James. He said, turn off the news. If it's urgent, you will find out about it. Connect daily with friends and positive people. Just the other day, I was on with a friend of mine who had messaged me. And by the way, I hadn't talked to this gal in, I think it had been almost 5 years, maybe three or four, but maybe near 5 years. And what was really fascinating about that phone call is she said something really powerful. She said, you know what, Jason, I've actually reached out and had more conversations with people. She said, I went through my old yearbooks and my old, files and all these other things. And she just said, I have literally found every person that I can possibly reach out to. And I've just been sending them old pictures of us. So she went through all of her old files and all of her old photos and just said, I found all these old pictures. I'm sending it out. And I'm letting people remember fun memories so that while we're here right now, we can maintain that level of optimism. And I think for a lot of you guys, you might think, well, that's crazy, Jason. There's too many realities to deal with. And I just want to say this. Your reality, if you've never heard this before, your reality is created by the agreements you make with other people. Okay, did you catch that? Your reality is created by the agreements you make with other people, but also the agreements you make with yourself. So what that means, and the reason why that's so important, is that your reality, if it's negative, and that's the way you choose to focus on it, is the things you can't control and what's out of your control, and when do I get this and when do I get that, and how does that whole thing work? Well, then guess what? You're going to go down that negative path over and over and over again until you can figure out what you can do to change your mindset. So my argument for you is, how do you shift that focus? How do you move from being obsessed about the things you have no control over to being excited about the opportunity in the future? Somebody asked me, and I know it was, we were just talking about this the other day, is they said, well, Jason, when salons reopen again after this whole quarantine business, we're going to have a huge problem. People are going to need to sit far away from each other, in a huge salon. There's only going to need to be 1 or 2 people that walk in there right now. And here's what I just want to say about this, okay? Is that is a possible future. And the more I think about that future, I know this sounds a little probably distant here in kind of a lot of imaginations, but for a lot of people, I think that if you start creating that future and you start thinking about it going, yeah, it's going to be hard and we're all going to have to wear face masks for another 10 years and we're going to, this is just the way it's going to be and we're going to move into this, what's that movie? The Hunger Games sort of reality, okay, is that you actually you're actually working to create that because you're envisioning it. Now, here's the future that I choose to envision. And I want to say this. Nobody on planet Earth right now knows what the future is. It's all made up. It's made up in your mind. It's made up in my mind. It's made up in everyone's mind, right? Is that the idea here is that we get to make it up together right now. And what I think is so, so, so important about that for all of us as we're talking about this right now is for you to have a moment to just say, how do I create the reality that I want for my salon, for the opportunity that I want to create? What is the future that I want to craft, that I want to bring to the table, that I want to make with my salon staff? Because no matter where your salon is, whether you're in Florida or New York, Arizona, or in Canada, or in Australia, or in Japan, like the reality that you're going to create is, guess what? Your reality. This is what I was going to say this earlier. And by the way, Doug dropped out. Let me see if I can get Doug back in here, hanging out with us while we're kicking it. That's why you're like, why is Jason talking a lot? We haven't seen Doug for a minute. Just want to acknowledge that for you guys. Is that here's one of the biggest challenges that I've seen, and I just think this happens over and over again as you're talking about this, is that your job as a salon owner is to maintain this wildly excessive optimism for everyone around you, especially your team, especially your guests. And this is what I was saying on that call. Is that if you think for a second that what you do for a living is cut and color hair, that's the mistake that you're making. Is that what I would make the argument is that what you do for the industry is you help people feel exceptional about themselves and you make them not only feel beautiful, but look beautiful. And so here's the thing that I just want to say, and I don't know, maybe this is the future that I'm going to create because I'm going to keep saying it until it gets created, is that right now, if you're in a position that you're on some semblance of lockdown and you can't get out and you can't visit your clients, look, people are having to be on camera now more than ever before, right? And I know this because when I used to be a dance teacher and I've worked in environments where you have to see yourself in the mirror all the time. For stylists, you see yourself in the mirror all the time, which helps you raise your complexion because you're looking at it, you're paying attention to it, you scrutinize it, you get better fashion, you get cooler hair, you get better makeup, you do all these things because of the amount of time you spend in front of a mirror, and you to a certain level obsess about being in front of your own image. Now, the reason why I'm bringing that up is because so many people on planet Earth right now are in a position where they are forced to confront their own image every single day, right? Like in a normal office, I'm not in front of mirrors all day. I would just see it in the bathroom, and I'd see them here. I'd go to all these different places. By the way, if this is resonating for you, do me a favor, throw some exclamation points in the comment so I know you're getting this. Is that people are stuck with seeing their own image because they're on webcam every day. They're on FaceTime every day. And unlike in real life where you don't see yourself reflected back, you now have to see that your hair is starting to grow out and it's getting excessively long. And you're like, wait a second, my clothes are not that cool. And wait a second, my makeup isn't so great. And I don't even know how to do these things. Like you're literally going down this spiral path of being obsessed with your image. And guess what? The person who you go to help you with your image, your stylist, your makeup artist, your massage therapist, like all these other people who are a part of your life are not available to you, and you're stuck. You're doing it on your own. We have some people in our High Performance Salon Academy that I freaking love. Dana and Letty, shout out to them. They're doing tutorials in their salon every single week. Here's how to put on lashes. Here's how to do like a mini blowout of your hair so that you're conference call ready. And they're doing all these things to serve their community at a high level because they've made the pivot and they realize that their job is making people beautiful, not doing a blowout, not just cutting hair, not just coloring hair, even though that's part of it. Right? There's the way in which you do it, and then there's the why in which you operate. Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, an amazing tool and resource. It's really, really powerful. And I just want to make sure that you guys have got this today as a part of this episode. And for whatever reason, I couldn't get Doug back in, so you just got to deal with me ranting on this today. But I want to say it this way, is that when the industry, in my opinion, wakes up and realizes your job is to help people not only look beautiful, but feel beautiful, like in their soul, that's how we're going to change the industry. That's what we're going to do in order to make sure that you pivot. And what that hopefully should do for all of you guys that are listening or watching or hearing this back on replay with everything we do with this podcast is that something inside you got stirred today that says, I can make it. I can do this. I will pivot. I will figure out a way to transform what I thought my job was, what I thought my business was, what I thought my team was, and put it in a perspective like you've never seen before, and allow you to get the permission to have that freedom to try something way outside your comfort zone. And as the intro of this podcast suggests, salon owners have such big hearts. When you change, you forget that you can charge. Did you hear me? I hope you did. Is that you guys think sometimes when you change, oh, I changed my prices. Well, I better discount for a while. Oh, I brought a new retail line. Oh, I better give a deal on that. If you give somebody a digital consultation and talk to them about their hair, that's a customer paying you for a consultation. I've said this over and over again. If I was on the phone and somebody walked me through how to cut my hair, I would pay for that. It sounds dangerous. I don't know that I could do it. My children's scissors that are the Crayola scissors probably are not the best for doing that. But my point is that I would actually pay more money. I'd pay a premium if somebody could help me cut my hair right now. And for those of you that think that people are going to like start cutting their own hair and never come back to you, trust me, I've been able to change the oil in my car since I was 16 years old. But every time I need to get my oil changed, I still take it to the dealership because I don't want to get my hands dirty. I don't need hair all over my house. That's what I'm doing in desperate times, not what I'm doing when I want to have my normal life. And by the way, we will go back to some semblance of normal. Your life will get better and you will change. I hope today has inspired you and made you think about pivoting in a new direction. If that's the case, do me a favor and comment with the word pivot, because I think today might just be the very first day that you see yourself for who you really are, which is somebody who makes other people feel beautiful on the outside and on the inside, not just somebody who cuts and colors hair. Thank you guys so much for being here, and enjoy another episode very soon. Thanks for listening to the Evo Revo podcast. If you liked today's episode, please subscribe, leave us a review, and you can always get more information, including show notes and the video episodes at evorevopodcast.com.